Hey everyone, welcome back. So I have a very exciting guest with me today. You guys all know her, I'm sure, already. Signe from the great Use Less here on YouTube. So we've been internet friends for a little while, a few years now, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? And we're both huge fashion lovers. But the one thing that I've been really interested in and that Signe is kind of an expert in is learning your color palette. What colors look the best on you? How do you decide what colors to go for? Why do some colors wash you out while others make you look like you're glowing? So today, Signe is going to do a color analysis on me, and we're gonna see if maybe I can branch out into maybe a little bit more than black, white, and taupe in my wardrobe.
You definitely will be able to, yeah.
So Signe, what sort of encompasses a color analysis or consult with you, and why is it important to have one?
The reason why I wanted to become a certified color consultant was because, like you, I feel like I always gravitate towards the more neutral palette. I started getting more interested in wearing colors, and I felt like I definitely wanted to wear more color than I did. I create content where I help my followers become more mindful when they purchase new items for their wardrobes. I felt like it was only natural for me to also go down that road, being able to help my client or my followers one-on-one, helping them determine what is the right clothing for me, how can I invest smarter in my wardrobe to ensure that I buy things that I want to keep for as long as possible. So that's why I feel like color analysis is really a helpful tool, because it will help you invest smarter in your wardrobe. And I'm sure many people can relate to this. Sometimes you buy a fashion item because you see it on someone else and it looks amazing on that person. And it could be either the fit or the color that attracts you, and then you try it on yourself and then it just doesn't seem right. And when speaking colors, I feel like it's really important to figure out what shade of that specific color will feel more right on you, what will boost your confidence, and what will you keep for the longest time in your wardrobe.
I think that's really cool, because I always felt like, honestly, that color even wasn't for me, and I'm just wondering if maybe it was because I was just choosing either the wrong color or the wrong intensity of it, and then I just was like, okay, well, maybe I'm just not a color person, and I'll just continue, I'll just embrace the black and white and the neutrals.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with wearing neutrals. Neutrals are great. I always find myself getting attracted to, when I see outfits from others, I always find myself getting really inspired by neutral outfits. But I think even with neutrals in your wardrobe, you can enter somewhat of a style rut, because you end up buying everything in neutrals and then you have everything in black, and it's like, okay, I am feeling uninspired because now everything is just black and white. I think the easiest way to describe it is that it's just a much more intentional way of investing in your wardrobe.
I love that. We're all about the intentional wardrobe building, intentional spending, buying, curating here.
Yeah. During a virtual consultation, I have the client send me some pictures in natural daylight. And then the main thing that I look at is the relationship between your hair color, your eye color, and then your skin color. That's what's going to tell me what your dominant color type is. Just to give you an example, if we have a palette here, this would be a palette that you could potentially get. The first 30 colors that you see in the palette will be your dominant colors. And then the two empty slots here, the room in these are your secondary color type. So that's where we can tailor make the palette even further to fit you and your coloring. When I look at you actually kind of remind me, or your coloring reminds me a bit of Audrey Tautou, because she has this depth to her features and she has quite cool toned skin at the same time. So you're quite similar to her in coloring. So it's nice to have someone else that you can sort of compare yourself to.
You said there were a bunch of color types with the Color Me Beautiful method. So I'm curious what they are and maybe what I would fit into.
We have 6 dominant ones that we look at. So we have the deep color type, we have a light color type, we have a cool color type and a warm color type, and then we have the clear and the soft. So those are the 6 color types that we work with. To me, you are actually on the verge between two. So you could be a deep or you could be a clear. So in a situation like this, it's really, really important that we also have a discussion about you and your style preferences and you as a person, and then also your profession. So we want to make sure that it feels right for you and your personality and your style preferences as well. If you look at this picture that I created, I'm not sure if you feel more right with one or the other, but to me, when I look at these two comparisons, like there's a typical deep palette beneath one of the pictures or underneath your chin, and then there's a typical clear palette underneath the other picture. And to me, again, you're just on the verge between these two. Even though you have quite soft eyebrows, I feel like there's quite a lot of clarity just by looking at the contrast between your skin color and your hair color. You have quite dark hair, you have quite deep eyes as well. And then you have like these really beautiful big eyes where I feel like there's a lot of contrast between the white in your eyes and then again your hair color. So we do have quite a lot of contrast going on. How do you feel about clear versus deeper colors?
My main way of like looking at this is the first top two pictures, and immediately I am like, oh, I lean toward the deep for sure. Just like the swatches that you picked there. Like in the clear, those saturations and tones I definitely wouldn't wear. I have a really hard time discerning, does this wash me out? Like, is it complementing my skin tone? How do you determine that?
We rely quite heavily on our testing drapes. So I have a lot of different colored drapes, which I would then place underneath your chin, and then I would compare them. So if ever I was in doubt, I would always like do this testing before moving on. What I look at as a consultant is harmony. And that's, again, especially when I look at that picture again with the deep colors and then the clear colors, comparing those. I definitely feel more settled with the deep palette. I feel like it looks more harmonious. It looks more rounded with your natural features and your natural coloring. And that's why I have actually put you in that category as a dominantly deep color type.
I lean towards the deep for sure, but there's like some light sort of baby blues here. And then I look in my wardrobe and like, that's like in the clear swatch. That's in the clear palette for sure. So I find it really interesting that maybe I've been mixing that sort of the whole time, anytime I do sort of reach for color. That's really cool.
It's quite fascinating. Often when I have clients, without even knowing it, they feel kind of drawn to certain colors that then turn out to actually be the ones that flatter them the most. So with you being a dominantly deep color type, that means that you look great in a dark color worn or a deep color worn with a deep color, but you can also wear contrasting combinations. So for example, today you're wearing black and white. That's a great combination for you, but you can also wear something like black and like a dark bottle green, for example. That would also look great on you. So that's sort of the way I would advise you to wear your specific colors, to wear them either deep with deep or in contrasting combinations. As a deep color type, I would advise you to avoid wearing pastel shades, like pastel shades on their own. We never tell people that you can't wear this or that color. There's always a way that you can make a color work, even if it isn't in your palette. In your case, for example, if you were to wear something again like that light blue shirt, like a really baby blue pastel blue shirt, I would advise you to wear that maybe with, for example, let's just say a red lip, something to give that blue color some contrast. Or you could wear a layer on top in a deeper color, again, to deepen that quite light shade a bit more, give it a bit more depth. What happens for deep color types when you wear really like pale pastel shades is that they make you look a bit more washed out. They can almost give you like a gray tinge. And of course, we want to make you look more alive and more fresh and more vibrant with the colors that you're wearing.
It's really interesting, and I think very eye-opening to have like a system and a rationale behind all this, because I think a lot of times we'll just like open up our wardrobe and try combinations and not really understand why it doesn't work. So if I am choosing a blue in my wardrobe, which I do quite often, I will often pair it with something contrasty. But I never really thought about it like that. It's just like, oh, I like black, so I'll just pair this with black.
Sometimes, again, it can be a bit hard to tell a person's undertone just by looking at a picture. That's where we rely quite heavily on doing the testing with our drapes. But with you, again, also because I've followed you for a long time, I've seen a lot of like images of you, a lot of videos. And also when I look at this picture that I've used as an example here, I think it's quite clear that you are leaning more cool in your skin tone.
I definitely do feel like I'm more cool, but the only way I sort of discerned that was just by like experimenting with makeup. I always lean towards like the warm colors, like the reds, the oranges, the like terracottas, but whenever I put it like in my face, like as an eyeshadow or a blush, I find it just does not work. It makes my eyes, it makes my eyes disappear. I feel like I look really tired.
Yeah, and it could be like a lot of people are neutrals, so it could be that you're sort of in between. Mm-hmm. But definitely when I look at your picture, and again, also just by looking at the screen now that we're recording, you definitely look a bit more pinky to me in your skin tone, and that's definitely like a clear sign that you are more cool. Again, I don't feel like the warm colors are awful. I have a bit of a hard time seeing you in that orange, that really like bright orange. When I look at the deep and cool palette next to it, I definitely see like it's a lot more harmonious. Your lip color just pops. And then obviously, like I mentioned before, it's not like you can't wear warm colors. That's kind of a misconception. I feel like sometimes people will be like, okay, well, if you know your undertone, you know if you suit cool colors or warm colors better. But really, you can often wear both. It's more a matter of looking at like the dominant like factor. Like for you, we're looking at depth. So if you were to wear green is a warm color, all you need to think about, well, my keyword is depth. I always need to choose the deeper version of that color. So the final thing we need to look at is clarity. So we need to figure out, are you then a more soft or are you more clear? If you just look at your eyebrows, for example, those are quite soft. They blend in with your skin color. But when you look at, again, your skin tone, your hair color, and your eye, there is actually quite a lot of contrast going on. It's not enough for you to be a dominantly clear, but definitely you could be put in the secondary clear category. And I also feel like that the slightly clearer colors, like here, they make you look more alive. They make your lips pop and your eyes pop. Whereas the softer ones, they just kind of wash you out. They don't really do that much for you. Your overall color type would then be deep, cool, and clear. So if we were to compare you and me, for example, I'm the opposite of a clear. I'm a dominantly soft color type. So with me, for example, because I have like highlights and there's not a lot of contrast between my hair color and my skin color, for example, like when we look at you, you have quite dark hair. So everything is a bit more toned down, everything is a bit more muted. And in that case, I would recommend a client like myself to go for the slightly more muted colors, to wear colors not with high contrast, but slightly more tonal. That would be more harmonious for a soft color type to go for.
So do you believe that anybody can wear any color then in this case?
Definitely. We look at those three factors. We look at the depth, the undertone, and the clarity. And so it's about the version or the shade of the different colors. That's really what you want to look at. If you were to tell me, but I love wearing orange, I have this orange jumper or whatever that I love wearing, I would then give you some advice like I did to start off with, how to wear that color so that it works better for you. So we're never leaving out specific color. I would never tell a client that you cannot wear this color, but definitely like the shade of the different colors, it does have quite a big impact. There's not always one right answer. Sometimes it can go both ways. Again, we need to talk about your style, personality as well, and your preferences, your profession. If you were a kindergarten teacher, for example, I might advise you to wear the clearer colors if you were in between a clear and a deep, because then you're wearing more lively colors and that makes the children happy, for example. But if you're in counseling and if you're working, and if you are in counseling, I would probably then advise you to wear this slightly more, slightly less in your face palette. So there is always a connection like that. And I think that's quite an overlooked factor when speaking which colors work for you or not.
So I do have some pieces in my wardrobe that I find make me look like ill and very washed out. Like for this piece, for example, I feel like I look like I have the flu or something. So if I wanted to wear this, knowing what we know, like I know that this doesn't really work for me. It might work for you more, right? Because it's a little bit softer, a little bit desaturated. So for me, how would you style this top as a deep, cool, clear type of palette?
So what I would do with that is I would give it some depth, either by wearing that, again, it could be a deeper green, it could be black, it could be like a dark brown, kind of depends again on your style and how you like to combine colors. Something else you could do is to, if you're into that, is to apply a deep lipstick, for example. Sometimes it's nice to add a bit of interest with a lip color. So if you were to wear it on its own, I would think about, well, how can I then deepen up my makeup a bit to give it a bit more depth and a bit more contrast to that really pale color. There are always ways that you can make the color work better for you, but I definitely agree it's a very pale and very like, it's a typical like pastel shade, which is slightly light for you, and you need that depth and that like richness of the colors to work more in harmony with your coloring.
Versus like, and you know, so kind of going back into that, everybody, whenever I wear this blazer in my videos, everyone just like loves this color, and I never really understood why. But yeah, so this is it's the deep, it's rich, it's like a teal.
As a deep color type and as a deep cool color type, you actually have all the teal in your palette, all the way from like a lighter teal to like a medium teal and a dark teal. So teal is definitely like, if you love that color, I think you should like definitely wear that. And yeah, I can definitely tell it's an amazing color for you.
So usually I layer like a white under it, but would you recommend layering like a black instead with this?
Because you're dominantly deep, you can wear both the dark color with dark. So like that dark teal with a black would be one way, but you could definitely also wear something like a light blue with that. I imagine that to be quite a nice way of both adding a bit of contrast, but also using those colors from both the deep palette and also the deep and cool palette, because you do have a few of those quite light blue colors in your palette. They're not like super pale, but they're lighter. So, and I think it's really nice to pair those with something in a deeper shade like that teal, for example. That would be quite nice.
Well, thank you so much, Signe. I learned so much today, and I feel like I have a whole new like system and arsenal to think about when I, you know, am deciding to add something new to my wardrobe that might be a little bit more adventurous than black and white. So if you guys want to book a consult with Signe, she does them in person. So if you're in Denmark or virtually, like we did today, I will leave everything linked down below.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. It was so much fun.
Bye.
Bye.